Welcome to City on a Hill Kids Search Online.
I'm Lola.
And I'm Jimmy.
Today we're going to be talking about the solution to sin.
But that will be after a time of worship.
Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us, save us. You came from heaven's birth to show the way, from the earth to the cross, my debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Yeah, yeah. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us, save us. You came from heaven's earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross, my debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. You came from heaven's earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross, my debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I lift your name on high. Oh, Lord, I lift your name on
Last time we looked at sin and that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. We also saw that the consequences, that is the wages of sin, is death. It's both a physical death and a spiritual death. Physical death being our body dying and spiritual death being separated from God. When God created Adam, he gave Adam the responsibility for looking after all his creation. And Adam also had direct access to God. He could meet up with God almost at any time. You know, when you have constant access to somebody, you tend to know them. You tend to know what to expect from them. And that person gets to know you. But when Adam sinned, all that was lost. And that sin affected all of mankind. Whether you or I think that we are not responsible, it doesn't really matter. All of us are affected by what Adam did. So all of us have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. One thing that we do need to know and understand is, despite the fact of what Adam had done and the wages of sin being death, God has never stopped loving us. He still loves us. And he didn't completely abandon us. So the last time, you remember, I had said that God kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden. But before he did that, he said a few words to them. To Adam, he said, "The ground is cursed because of you. Now the ground will grow thistles and thorns, and that he, Adam, will work extremely hard from the sweat of his brow to eat until the day he dies and returns to the ground from which he was made." To the woman, he said that she will have challenges when it comes to having children. And to Satan, he said, I will make you and the woman enemies, and her child and your child enemies. These are the exact words he used. I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. And a capital S was used for her seed, which means that her seed was a very important person. And indeed, her seed is Jesus Christ. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. So you can see from that, and you can try and understand, that God didn't abandon us. He made a way out for us. And he demonstrated that by the fact that even though we were sinners, even though we are still sinners, Christ died for us. That is, Christ took our punishment. So, the wages of sin is death. The punishment for sin is death. And Jesus Christ came to the earth. He accepted to be born as a child, as a human being. He grew up without sinning. He did absolutely nothing wrong. And yet, he took our punishment, dying on a cross, being buried. He rose on the third day. And that's because he loves us. Let me say this in a different way. Maybe you would understand it a bit better. Now, let's say you were in class and you kept on talking, and your teacher had told you time and time again, stop talking, stop chatting. And you just kept on chatting. You just ignored your teacher. And then your teacher said, that's it. I have had enough. Right. You aren't going out to play. You're not going to have a break for, let's say, a week. No, a week is too short. Let's say for a whole year. That's a long time. And what's more, you'll not go out for lunch. You have to have your lunch at your classroom desk. Can you imagine that? Looking out of the window, seeing all your friends playing, and you're not allowed out because you were told to stop chatting and you disobeyed, and your teacher had had enough and wasn't changing their minds, that you would have to sit in class during break time. And then someone comes along and says, okay, I'll take your punishment for you while you go out to play. Of course, you'll be so happy, but you won't be chatting anymore. But that person now for the year takes that punishment for you. That's exactly what happened when Jesus took our punishment. The wages of sin is death. He died in our place. You can read more about this in the book of Genesis, in the book of Romans, and other books of the Bible. And that's the end of the story.
Hi guys, how are you? I am loving hearing Ivy teach on these verses from Romans, aren't you? And today, as I said, we are going to continue with an autumn theme to our craft. So you can see what I've done here is I've made a picture frame around the key verse, but God demonstrates his own love towards us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Romans chapter 5, verse 8. But you could make this frame around any of your own favourite Bible verses or this one. So let's get on and make it. So to begin with, you need some cardboard. So cereal packet cardboard is always good. And you need to cut out a rectangle. So if you've got a cereal packet, just cut it open like this and cut out one of these rectangles, as you can see I have done here. Now, we're also going to need a piece of white paper to go in behind that your verse is written on. So just put your cut out piece of packet onto a piece of white paper, draw around it, and cut your paper the correct size. The next thing we need to do is make this frame shape. So just get your ruler and put it up against the edge of each side of your piece of cardboard, and then we'll draw along so that we've got, whoops, so that we've got the lines of the frame. And then it's a bit tricky because it's one of these times where you have to stick your scissors right through the cardboard to get yourself started. So if you're not sure about that, get somebody to help you just with that bit so you don't spike yourself. So then we'll cut out along these lines that we've drawn to get the outline of our frame. Now, because the whole thing is going to get covered in autumn leaves, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit rough, but you know, keep it as good as you can. So then, when you've got your frame, first thing we'll do is we'll just stick that onto our white piece of paper where we'll have our verse written. So for this one, you just want a glue stick. If you're sticking paper or card, a glue stick is the easiest kind. And then when we come to stick the leaves, we'll use some PVA like we did last week. So there we are. I've stuck glue onto the kind of back side, the coloured side, in fact, of the cardboard. Whoops. And we'll stick that onto the frame. Now, I haven't stuck that very well, so there's a piece of white sticking off, so we'll just cut that off. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is write our verse on here. Now, when I did this one, I drew the lines on. So you probably want to give yourself guidelines. And you can see for this one, even though it's quite a short verse, it's taken me 7 lines plus for the whole verse, plus the reference, because it's quite a narrow space. But this time I'll just write it freehand. But God demonstrates his own love towards us. Good. Now, I won't write the whole verse out just now because it would take a bit long, but you would get your whole verse written, and then it's time to decorate around the edge. So, just like we did last week, oops, there goes the other glue, I'm using some PVA and I'm putting it onto a plate, an old plate that I use for glue. And again, I've got my paintbrush. Do you remember it's okay to use a paintbrush for glue, so long as you definitely clean it up afterwards. And I'm going to paint glue all around the edge of my frame. So if you watched last week and saw us making the hedgehog, it's really very similar. We're going to paint on the glue, then we're going to stick on the leaves. And last time I used 2 different kinds of leaves. I used sycamore leaves and beech leaves. I've got some more beech leaves, and this time for the frame, I'm choosing just to use one kind. I think these beech leaves are a lovely colour, and I'm just using one variety, but you can use whichever kind of leaves you want to. So once you've got the glue on, you can start sticking down your leaves. And you might remember we had this trouble last time. The leaves, they don't really want to stick, they want to spring up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the leaves onto one side, oops, and I'm having them all facing the same way, so I'm having them all with the stalk facing in towards the picture. And once I've got one side done, I'm taking one of the pieces of cardboard that was left over when I cut out the piece of cardboard for the frame. I'm putting that over, and I'm getting one of my trusty books, and I'm weighting that down. And I'm just going to then do my next side. And all leaves, they don't want to go flat, they just want to curl up. We'll stick them as best as we can. And then when I've got the whole side done, and remember, keep them all facing the same way, it looks good if you have all the stalks coming into the middle. There we go, I've got another piece of cardboard to put over that lot, and another book to squash that lot down. Good. And then we'll just keep going around, and you can see this is actually, it's a very quick craft. The only bit that was time consuming was going out to gather the leaves, and that was just part of a nice walk. So that was fine. And there we go, there's my third side done. And we'll just take another piece of cardboard and weight that down, and then we'll do the final side. And we'll just get this quickly finished off. Now, you could add other things on as well as leaves. You could add some pine cones or conkers if you found them. But anything that's not flat like a leaf is going to be harder to get to stick on. Right, then we've got our last side. Now that I've got the whole lot covered, I'm just going to take these books off. I'm leaving those pieces of cardboard on. And like I did last time, I'm then getting a piece of scrap paper, putting it over the whole thing, and we'll put our books back on top to weight those down. And again, this one has maybe been 15 minutes and it's gone really nice and solid and ready to go up on the wall. So what you want to do is just leave it, and then you'll be able to take it off and have a look. Now, we obviously have not left this long at all, so my leaves may all fall off, but we'll just try. Okay, yeah, there we are. They're just about staying on. And when you've finished, you might find, there's a few gaps, and that's okay because it's very easy to then go back and add on some extra, and you can add a little bit more glue and add on some extra. And I think these frames look really, really nice, and it would make a nice gift for somebody. If somebody in your family has a favourite Bible verse, why not make one of these, write out the Bible verse, and they can have that up in their home. So they've got God's word with them all the time, beautifully decorated by you. Well, I hope you enjoy making picture frames, and I'll be back again next week with another autumn craft. Bye!
Not only were we affected by the sin of Adam and Eve, the ground was also cursed. It now sprouts thistles and thorns.
Yes, but God still loves us. He showed that by making a way out for us.
Go on.
He said that the heel of the woman's seed, that is Jesus, will bruise the head of Satan's seed.
That's right, Jamie. Jesus came and took our wages of death. That shows how much Jesus actually loves us. Jamie, can you say the verse from Romans 5:8?
Yes. But God demonstrated his own love towards us, in that, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Romans 5:8.
Well done. That's it for this week.
Till next time, bye!